Hi and welcome to another Steve's Amateur Garage video. I'm sure you've already realised we're not in the garage today. We're actually outside having a look at my daily driver, the MG TF from 2002. I've owned this car for about 5 years now. Bought it for £650 with an MOT with 50,000 miles on the clock. I don't think you can get one for £650 with an MOT nowadays, but it's done me for the last 5 years. It's now up to 90 odd thousand miles, and we'll just have a little walk round because it's come to the end of the winter. I like to do a little bit of spring tiddling up, and we'll be doing that over the next few weeks. I'll hopefully show you some more videos, but overall, from 5 feet away with a bit of sun shining on it, you can see it's still very presentable. There's the usual sort of car park dints on it, a few scuffs on the wheels, but overall not bad. For a 90,000 mile car, the interior is really holding up pretty well. The seat bolster has a slight wear, but nothing. Its fabric's slightly stretched. Passenger seats we tend to keep covered up because the dog jumps on it, but inside all the switches amazingly are still working well. Electric windows still working, radio works, heaters work, although we have replaced the resistors early on in the ownership. And you can just see a bit of a dint in the armrest. That's because I lean my elbow on it sort of permanently, but miraculously it's holding up nicely. I'm sure if you're watching this video you will have a pretty good understanding of the MG TF and its Achilles heel, and all MG TF owners are pretty competent at checking this little container here, which is the coolant fluid. Usually a quick glance inside there, you can still see it's sort of pink on the bottom half, which is always a good sign. And when we come to top it up, which we tend to do on a consistently regular basis, it goes in there, and you might just be able to see, yeah, just there is the level marker, and at this moment the water's just off the very top edge of it. That marker's about 5 mil deep, so it's not huge. It doesn't take a lot to go from the top to the bottom of the level, but we all get used to checking that very carefully. At that stage where it's just poking through the top, it's hardly worth topping up. We could run that for another few weeks and it will have lost a few more millilitres, and then we just put a bit in. But we do that consistently. It's the head gasket, it's the weak point, the Achilles heel of these cars, and no matter what you do, well, you could be cruel and say they were failing from the first day they were made, but certainly this one's on its 3rd gasket now. I replaced it with last summer, about a year ago now, with a upgraded gasket. The one that I took off was an original type of gasket, but it had been replaced before I bought the car, and that went on for years, slowly but surely losing more water, until the point of when you pick the dipstick up, you would get the brown gunge on the end, which luckily so far hasn't reappeared after about 6 months with the new gasket, so I'm thinking that's holding together really well. But we know sooner or later it will start to fail. It might take a few years again, but that's what you have to live with when you own an MG TF. So here's Pepe looking resplendent after its first good wash and polish of the spring. It's probably looking absolutely fantastic and looks like a concours car, but in reality it's not. We've had it for 5 years, and I'll point out what happens after using the car over the winter every day to drive backwards and forwards to work. Constant bodywork. Just every spring you will notice that the inner wing just starts to rust up. It's not bad, it's more surface, but again we'll grind that away. And down here at the beginning of the front of the sill, not bad, just needs grinding away, priming, some sort of rust preventative used on it. You can see here just starting to bubble, so that'll have to be ground away, and obviously every year you're grinding a little bit more and a little bit more, so this time we might just do the whole front section of the sill and just blend it in. It'll be a Stevie amateur job obviously, but it's enough to slow that deterioration process down. There's a fairly bad stone chip there, but that'll just be ground out, touched up, it'll be fine. These air vents quite often just go at the bottom here. It seems to have survived this year, so I'm not going to touch that. And again, the sill at the back here, it's surface rust. It gets worse every year, but we'll grind that away. Bit of rust prevention, and touch it over with a spray can. It's not bad. It's a bit here as well, just under there. We'll grind all that off, mask it up, and give it a good blow over. Let's say for 90,000 miles used every day as a daily driver, I think it's holding up really well. It's not concourse, it's not meant to be, but it is presentable and still looks alright with a bit of sunshine on it. Things that have gone wrong, probably about 3 years ago, it burst the main rubber pipe from the back of the engine to the two pipes that run through to the front of the radiator. It just split. It was near enough 20 years old. It's just split and lost all its coolant in one big plume of steam. It's you think it's on fire, but it wasn't. It was just steam, and that had to get lifted up and towed back to base. And then a couple of years ago, the alternator packed in on the way home from work, about 10 miles out from home. The red light came on, so you knew something was amiss. Slowly but surely the radio got fainter and fainter. Eventually the dials just flickered and stopped working. The power steering, obviously electric power steering, finally gave up the ghost, and it became very heavy, but it almost made it. On 10 miles of just battery power, about half a mile from home, it just coughed and spluttered and ground to a halt. So we replaced the alternator, and that got us going again, and that's been fine. So apart from that, which really you can say are just age related issues, yes, we know we've done the head gasket recently, which is something you just have to do every now and again. Probably about 2 years ago we replaced all the suspension. The MOT advisory list was long, and it should have just said every part of your suspension is wearing out. So we basically did the whole lot. Bottom wishbones, all the ball joints, replaced it with the soft suspension kit, which has done well. It's improved the ride, especially with our potholed roads nowadays, and it just rides really well, drives really well. So there we are. We'll get it in the garage, we'll have a look underneath, and you'll see what sort of damage is done driving it through the winter. Whatever's there, we will repair it, correct it, and hopefully prolong its life.